It's now time for Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, live on the Woodward Sports Network. Every day, 2 to 4 p.m. Starring Ryan Ermanni, Michigan great and former NFL baller Braylon Edwards, and of course, Tom Mazawey. Let's talk some sports.
Let's talk some sports. It is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Ermanni and Edwards with Maz, Woodward Sports Network, woodwardsports.com. Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards. Good afternoon to you, my friend.
Oh, man, I feel much better. I got some sleep last night. My headaches, they're gone. I woke up feeling amazing. I got a chance to see my boy Bryce Harper hit a home run last night. It's a great night. It's a great morning. I'm back.
I know Tom Mazawey is a World Series guy. How much are you enjoying the series here, Tom Mazawey?
I love Game 1 and Game 3. Let's get Game 4 now. Go Phils.
I was reading a column online. I forgot who wrote it, but is there a more connected player to his fan base than Bryce Harper right now in all of sports? Really, I mean, this guy just embodies what the city of Philadelphia is all about. Kind of got a little bit of an edge to him, or a lot of an edge to him, and he's playing well.
It's a lot of an edge, personally, but it's perfect. I mean, you look at what the Phillies done. The Phillies weren't excited to get Bryce Harper, pay the money that they spent for him 4 years ago. They weren't happy at that time. Bryce Harper wasn't necessarily happy. He left the Nationals right as they won the World Series. So I think there was a bit of chip on both their shoulders, and they worked hard together to get that relationship perfect. And then when you're winning like this, the city and the fan base can look at it and say, damn, that was a great pick. Now he is one of us. And he's given them moments that they will live down forever. And you spoke about moments a second ago. Bryce Harper is creating moments. Schwarber, Castellanos is even the guy that they're starting to like again. It's nothing like winning, man. It brings everything together.
Winning cures all.
It does. And not only that, he's not showing off either, if you notice.
Yeah.
He's going up there.
Everything with.
He is locked in. He's not chucking his bat. He's not pointing. He's not yelling.
No, not showboating.
He's not showboating, not one bit. And guess what? If it wasn't for the DH in both leagues, Bryce Harper would not be playing because of the injured to his shoulder. How about that? National
Incredible
League
stuff.
And the Phils locked out big time.
Yeah, the crazy thing about it is you look at last night, obviously we'll talk about the tipping pitches and a deal like that. But it's just one of those things for Bryce to notice. It was leadership. He brought it up to, he brought it up. That's something that they've already known about. I'm not saying that's something that Bryce Harper himself noticed right away. It's something that they already had studied, knowing that pitcher and knowing what he tends to do. And it's something that I think he reminded the players as a leader and as the current, before yesterday, as the current National League MVP from last year.
Without question. Guys, Brad Holmes spoke with the media today. We're going to get you caught up on some of that sound as soon as we get it in-house. And, one of the incredible things, just as we reflect on the TJ Hockenson trade, what it means and having some time to sleep on it and read up on it and let it really sink in, is that it truly feels like they have just mailed in the rest of the season. To me, that's what it feels like. Yeah, again, and Brad Holmes, just reading some of the quotes, Brad Holmes says that he would have considered making this trade if the Lions were 6-1, and I have a hard time believing that they would trade one of their best offensive players away if they were 6-1, and maybe that was just GM speak. I'm not going to beat him up for that. I just disagree with that saying. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Because what you're going to tell a fan base, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won your division sooner than you have won your division.
It's true.
Think about it. And they haven't been in your division in 20 years. So you're telling me you would consider trading a player like that if you were in place to win your first division title in over 20 years? I think not.
I listened to the whole press conference, and Dan Campbell at one point said, TJ was really good for us, but now this kind of opens us up more for different stuff. We could show you different players. I'm not saying nothing about the trade. I'm just telling you, I'm not going to give my game plan away. But in other words, what the hell is he talking about?
He likes James Mitchell. That's what he's talking about.
And he's a tight end. Yeah. Can we say maybe he knows the tight end position better than us? Maybe.
Well, I'm sure he does.
Well, I'm hoping James Mitchell.
Hope he does.
I hope James Mitchell gets to stay on the field. He was injured at Vodtech. From everything I know about this guy and heard about him, he could catch the ball.
He looked great in the one play we saw him, Braylon.
Yeah, exactly. The one play we did look great. Like, if we're going to sit here and criticize Dan Campbell and talk about what he can't do as a head coach, what he hasn't been able to do, what he doesn't have a resume of, and what he hasn't showed us, which he hasn't, we definitely got to give him credit for the one thing that he does know, and that is tight end. So maybe there's something to James Mitchell, maybe that's a good pick, and maybe that's somebody he wants to get going and he wants us to see. But on the other side, when you hear Brad Holmes say, well, even if we were 6-1, so I completely tuned out when I heard that, because that's the conversation that you have to, keep people at bay, even though the people at bay know you're BSing. But the other side of it is, was this not necessarily something that was talked about with the Minnesota Vikings during the draft? Like, hey, we'll do this for you, but we may want T.J. Hockenson at some point, and we want to revisit this conversation. Or there's a favor that you owe us down the line, and maybe they even kind of told them what that might be. This is something these are how backroom deals are done. Something that was in the works in April, the fan base knows nothing about, but they knew that this may come a time they had to trade T.J. Hockenson to Minnesota for a favorable trade since in Minnesota.
It helped that Irv Smith is out 8 weeks.
Yeah.
They had to make the deal.
And really, at the end of the day, life is about building relationships and maintaining relationships, and it seems like Brad Holmes has a relationship with the new general manager,
Kwesi Mensah. Yeah.
There you go, of the Minnesota Vikings. It's so easy. It would be so easy to come out here and just say, "Oh, Lions are terrible. Lions will never be good. Lions suck. The season's over," and all that stuff, and just go down this rabbit hole of how bad this organization has been since 1957. And we can certainly do that if you'd like. I prefer not to, because I think this organization has an opportunity now looking forward. And again, if you're not with me, fine. And I told you, I'm emotionally dead inside when it comes to the Detroit Lions, but I'm not going to say give them the benefit of the doubt, but I am saying that the NFL, the system in the NFL, allows for you to get good quickly. Yeah. That's a phrase that I like to say a lot. And it's true. And there is an opportunity to get good quickly if you have your organization in place, you have your scouting department in place, because coming this offseason, you're going to have 5 of the top 65 players in this draft. You're going to have probably top 5 money to go out and spend on free agents in the NFL. And you have what you believe is a series of starters, or a set of starters in this league from the 2022 draft and the 2021 draft that perhaps are going to make an impact for you moving forward. There is an opportunity here, Braylon.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. And the good thing about it is I keep saying, I have not followed the Detroit Lions as a locked-in fan from the time I was born till now. I just was not a fan of the Detroit Lions. I was a fan of Barry Sanders. I was a fan of Herman Moore, Calvin Johnson, individual players, but not the Lions. So I don't have that emotional attachment. So when I come up here and I tell you, I haven't followed for as long as you have. I haven't watched the Lions say, you know what, next year, we're preparing for next year. I haven't paid attention to all that for the past 20 years or so here with the Detroit Lions fan base. So when they say next year, and I'm just watching how things are actually lining up, I'm watching the draft picks that they had this year. I'm watching the draft capital that they're gaining next year. I'm watching the cap space that they're opening up for next year. I watched how the offense kind of looked this year when it was good. I have some type of hope that it looks like the Detroit Lions have a good opportunity next season. And I know there's that word again, next. It sucks that the Detroit Lions always have to talk about next season as October comes around. I know that sucks. With that being said, as I'm looking at next year, I think the Detroit Lions have a damn good opportunity to really be that team that goes from worst to first, especially in this league. You look at Green Bay is falling apart, as you call it. Chicago Bears, they made some good moves, but Chicago Bears still are a long ways off as well. Detroit Lions could finally really be that worst to first. And they actually said in the beginning, Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, this was going to be a 3-year deal.
And look, but look how far you can fall in 3 years. I want to put these tweets up for you right now. So Albert Breer tweeted up. So this would be 4 years ago. Okay. Result of the 2018 draft is fascinating. Baker Mayfield traded, Saquon Barkley on his 5th-year option, Sam Darnold traded, Denzel Ward extended, Bradley Chubb traded, Quentin Nelson extended, Josh Allen extended, Roquan Smith traded. So half of the top 8 picks in the NFL draft just 3.5 years ago were traded. And then Peter Schrager from the NFL Network, you know how he sees this? Look at the top 8 general managers. Fired. John Elway, fired. Still employed, executive of the year, and fired. 6 of the 8 general managers who picked in the NFL draft in 2018 have been fired. This is a now or never league. You don't get 6 years. You don't get 5 years because the system is set up to get good quickly.
Yeah, you've consistently seen teams make that worst to first. You've seen teams take off, and you've seen the GMs have done it. So once you see something like that happen consistently, once you see that it is possible, and it's not just one team that does it, or it's not just 2. When there's 2 to 3 teams that do it every year, now you have to start looking through a different lens. And that lens is, well, if they can do it, and they can do it, and they can do it, I got more money than them, same money as them, more money than them. Well, I can just, you're like, we need to have it now. It's a right now results business.
And this is all about competent leadership, right? I mean, again, you saw, I think when we talked about the New York Giants and Jets turnaround, Maz, you know, one of the things that people were telling us were that, just look at the last 40 years for these teams. It hasn't been a quick turnaround, right? It's just not the way it has been. But
that's Maz's conversation.
But if you get competent leadership in there, because I'll give every rebuild, right, its own little section, its own little piece of the puzzle. If you have competent leadership, you're able to go from worst to first.
Well, it looks like the Jets and Giants finally are on the right track. Keep your fingers crossed if you're fans of those teams. And the Lions, the jury's out, man. It really is. We don't know.
And that's the thing too, Maz, and Ryan. As you're a GM and you have a good coach, so you have the competent leadership, and then you have a good GM that puts pieces together. But once again, it's kind of like we talk about now these coaches in NIL. You have to consistently recruit these players as they come to your school. As a GM, you got to consistently make good moves. It's not enough to rust on a couple of laurels. You look at Mike Tannenbaum. Shout out to Mike. Mike Tannenbaum will be on the show tomorrow. Get some insight about this free agency week that was crazy. But Mike brought me in 2009. It was a great move for the Jets. Brought me in 2009. He drafted Darrelle Revis while he was there. He also drafted Mark Sanchez, who was on the show yesterday. Then in the next season, he brings in Santonio Holmes for a 5th pick from the the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then he brings in LT, who's in the free agency league. Then he picks up the next option on Antonio Cromartie. Then we go back to the AFC Championship year. Right now, Mike Tannenbaum looks like a competent GM. Right now, Rex Ryan's a competent coach. But guess what happens after that? They don't sign some players back in 2011. They squander it all in 2012. Now, Mike Tannenbaum's not working with the New York Jets anymore. Now he's a consultant with the Miami Dolphins in 2013. Not only do you got to be competent and you got to get the draft right, Ryan, you have to consistently be competent and get the draft and free agent right.
Major news in the NFL today. It looks like Dan Snyder is finally considering a sale of the Washington Commanders franchise. We'll talk more about that with Dan Lust, the sports attorney to the stars, as we like to refer to him. He's been following this situation for years and will join us next. But first, a message from the Folding Warehouse.
In Hamtramck, Chris Hutt, Noni Hutt, the inventors of this great game. 2 ways to play it. $12 unlimited open play or a private lane reservation. 2 hours. You get it for $120, but you can have 10 or 12 people on a lane. Any drink you need, because they've got multiple full bars and over 100 beers on that menu, plus the $2 mystery beer machine. What are you going to get out of that thing? Bring your own food in or have it delivered. Get your fold on. Get it done soon. FoldingWarehouse.com.
Woodward Sports is giving you another chance to sit front row, this time at the Detroit versus Green Bay game. Think you have the best Dan Campbell impression?
Woodward Sports, let's go.
Can you say man with the best of them?
I got it. Here's what I need, man. I need you to trust me. I swear to God, I'm not a lunatic. I swear to you.
Can you say, let's go for it on 4th down?
Man, I got a plan, I swear to you. All I think about is you guys. That's all I think about, man.
Are you a master motivator?
That's all I think about is you guys.
Show us in a video. Record your best Dan Campbell impression and post the video on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag Woodward Front Row. We'll select the best 3 impersonations of Motor City Dan Campbell and send you and a guest front row. So knock the dust off the old sweatpants, light some kneecaps, and enter today. And as always, go Lions, man.
I just need you to trust me. That's all. Please.
I don't care if I got 1 toe, 2 butt cheeks, and a rock.
It's a great day to get some Centron in your life. Okay. There it is. Centron, here we go. Gotta grab the cranberry. Oh, wait, it's 2 for $4. Gotta double up with the classic as well. Centron World, baby. Centron, available at select Kroger's, and if you want to know how, go to @CentronWorld.com. You get dope like me. You know what? Why wait? Great taste, guaranteed.
For a limited time only, all new burgers and loaded fries at Big Boy. It's not a Slim Jim, it's the Big Jim. The chili cheese is such a tease. Guess what else is new? The bacon blue. How about upgrading those fries? Chili cheese fries, baked potato fries, nacho fries. What will it be? Satisfy those taste buds at Big Boy.
You have an opinion? Make sure it's seen and heard. Corner, jumper, tweet us, hop on the YouTube chat, slide in the DMS at Woodward Sports on all social media.
Hey everybody, JB here, letting you know about Planet Fitness and how they are home to your judgment-free zone where you can work out in a non-intimidating, judgment-free atmosphere. The gym has always been known to be clean, but now it is cleaner than ever with tons of equipment.
Very clean.
A full-body workout in just 30 minutes in a 30-minute circuit, and all memberships include fitness training. The best part about all this, you get it all just for $10 a month.
Only $10, JB?
Yeah, Ryan,
oh
only $10 a month. So join Eating Club today or check them out online at planetfitness.com.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. We love JB, Jeremy Bryant here at Fletch, keeping us on point. Here's the breaking news. Earlier today, the Commanders released a statement that the owners, Dan and Tanya Snyder, have hired Bank of America Securities to consider a potential transaction involving the franchise. Are they going to sell the whole team? Are they going to sell part of the team?
Minority shares.
What are they going to sell? But the fact that they have hired Bank of America Securities to consider this is really a huge, huge move forward to getting the Snyders out of the NFL, particularly Dan Snyder, one of the worst owners in really ever. And one of the guys that's been following this closely for a long time and is a really, really good podcast, a deep dive into this, is Dan Lust. The podcast is Conduct Detrimental, the sports law podcast. Dan Lust, of course, we call him the sports attorney to the stars on Twitter at Sports Law Lust. Dan, thanks for the time. I know it's a busy day today.
Very busy day, and I'm not sure quite what to make of that report. Obviously, it is big news that the Snyders are considering selling, but if you read between the lines, not really guaranteeing anything. So we'll see what comes of it here.
What is the significance of this? I mean, and I saw a couple of people point out today, he always said he was never going to change the name. He changed the name. He said he's never going to sell the team. It looks like, for the first time at least, that this is being considered. How important is this for the NFL, really, to see this through and to get Dan Snyder out of the game? Because, as you pointed out on your podcast earlier, just this paranoia that surrounds Dan Snyder is just not healthy for anybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, the question that we've always had, and I'm following this thing very closely. There's lawsuits that maybe people don't know it. Dan Snyder suing people in India and suing minority owners and really suing everybody up and down. It's why Snyder wants to go through this hassle, right? There's a literal pot of gold waiting at the end of the rainbow, right? The Denver Broncos sold for $4.65 billion. Washington, D.C., a major media market, you'd expect. I think that number is going to be 5.5, if not more, for Snyder. Yeah. And if he sells the team, I don't think there's this groundswell of people with their pitchforks out to get him, right? So what is the incentive to just fight and claw to hold this team? So, yeah, in one sense, obviously this news is a long time in the making that they are considering selling it. And maybe once Snyder gets his head out of his you-know-what, he sees that it's not worth all the hassle here. There's so much money waiting for him on the other side of this.
Dan, just asking a question to follow up to that. With Snyder and with everything that's going on with the NFL, you saw he said they don't want to mess with me, and then the NFL obviously is someone you don't want to try to bully. 31 of the other teams, one owned by a majority fan base. Like, what could it possibly be that made him come to this conclusion? Let me explore the options. What was it? Was it something that happened in the NFL meeting that he didn't feel too comfortable about with the bottom line of his business numbers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a couple things. You know, we've been very close to this for a while, and I could tell you as of June, I think I came on your program and explained, Roger Goodell had a chance really to pull the, with Adam Silver and Donald Sterling back in the day. Adam Silver went out and said that Donald Sterling was banned for life, right? So certainly Roger Goodell could have done that. He had the platform to do it in front of Congress, but he didn't. He had Snyder's back and said that, I don't have the power to force Snyder to sell. He doesn't. He could certainly make that recommendation. But at least as of June, Roger Goodell didn't want to do that. And it's important to note, right, Goodell made about $100 million over the last 2 years. And he did that because he's been, for lack of a better term, a punching bag, right, for the other owners. Yeah. He wants to defend them. But rest assured, if majority of owners back in June wanted Snyder out, certainly Goodell would not be defending Snyder. So something changed between June and November 2nd as we sit here today. And honestly, if you put my feet to the fire, I really think it was this ESPN report that came out that said that Snyder has all these dirt on other owners because he's preparing for a contentious divorce, right? Some type of proceedings to get voted out. And then we have the comments of Jim Irsay the last week or two, the owner of the Colts, who basically said that we have the votes to kick Snyder out. So then Snyder can really fight it and waste, I think he's paying lawyers like $500,000 a month on retainer, waste all this money fighting it, or again, right, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So maybe someone close to Snyder got in his ear and just said, financially, man, this thing is not worth it.
Good point.
Hey, Dan, I had something yesterday popped up on Pro Football Talk. That's Mike Florio and the guys at NBC. And they talked about weak owners. And they brought up the owner of the Lions, the Ford family. And now Sheila Hamp has taken over that. And he brought up Dan Snyder. And he said, NFL owners like these kind of owners because, let's face it, they make so many mistakes, and the other owners can take advantage of them. That's part one of my question. Do you believe what Mike Florio was saying?
Yes and no, but I wasn't really planning to say this, but Florio also had on the Commander's lawyer about a week ago, and that lawyer was shouting off all stuff from Dan Snyder straight from the horse's mouth that the ESPN report was not true and that was baseless. And then at the end of the day, ESPN was right about Robert Sarver. ESPN appears to be right here. So, I don't know. I think Florio could have done a little bit more to vet maybe some of his guests. But, yeah, I generally, do owners want bad owners in the league? Sure. I certainly could agree with that. That's fine.
How about let's take it off the sheet. If this does go through, and I think it will, they'll probably go for $6 billion. Jeff Bezos' name is being bantered about. Obviously, they're in bed with Amazon. Bezos, who the hell wouldn't want him to be Bezos, whatever the hell his name is. Bezos, whatever. Is he going to be the next owner of Washington?
Okay, this is a great question. Okay, I know we'll get in the weeds in this. That's why you guys, I think, had me on here. Snyder, as the report today is that Snyder is considering selling the team. And then you read the tea leaves, it's like maybe he's going to sell a minority share. It's not necessarily 100%. Here's where things get a little bit complicated, right? Let's say Snyder says, okay, I'll sell 51% of the team. I want to remain on as 49%. And that's what goes to the market. So, Tom, as you mentioned, I think the valuation is now like $5.5 billion, $6 billion, whatever it is. So let's say Snyder says, I want to sell half the team or a controlling share. So we'll say that's like $4 billion. I don't think any competent billionaire doing their due diligence is going to want Snyder anywhere near this team. It's been very well reported that he was unable to get a new stadium financing deal because local constituents in the DC and the DMV area were like, no, do not put any public money onto anything that Snyder owns. So I think someone like Bezos or anybody that has billions of dollars isn't going to want Snyder anywhere near this. But it's not really, as of this point, it's not a forced sale. It's Snyder voluntarily agreeing to part with the team. But if Bezos really wants to be involved, I think he's going to call up the other owners, and I'm sure he's friends with Goodell. They were shown at one of the Thursday night games together. He's going to say, hey, I'll put in more than $6 billion. I'll pay a premium if you guys can get Snyder out. That's the question, right? If somebody not named Bezos, maybe a lesser high-profile billionaire wants to pay in, but they're willing to take Snyder on and keep him in the league. So that's the battle that's going to be fought over these next months, even if Snyder, right, wants to sell a piece of the team here.
So that was what that infamous conversation that they looked like they were having on Thursday Night Football was. Now we're getting somewhere, Dan, Ryan.
Hey, Dan, let me ask you, and this is always one of those questions, because let's just assume that he's selling the team, right? We talk so much about minority head coaches in the National Football League, and maybe if you had a minority owner, maybe things would change a little bit. Is there a space legally where the NFL could say, we want to sell the Washington Commanders to a person of color, to a minority, and not Jeff Bezos for $6 billion, but get some, maybe Jay-Z, whoever, you know,
Right.
I mean, I'm just, whoever.
DC is called Chocolate City.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Legally, is there anything like that could be done or considered?
Yeah, no, yes and no. And as to the other Amazon comment, I mean, Al Michaels did say on the broadcast the NFL wants Snyder to sell. So that point is not lost on anybody paying attention to that. Could the NFL force that? I think if we got to a mechanism where the NFL forced Snyder to sell, I remember a couple years back, as I'm sure you guys do, where the NBA for a period of time controlled the New Orleans Pelicans
Yes.
for that brief window, and they were making trades. It's a weird situation with Chris Paul.
Fix the lottery, right?
Yeah, so no comment on that. But yeah, if there's a forced sale, the NFL is going to oversee that process. This is why it's a little bit different, right? Snyder is, just like Robert Sarver is in the Phoenix Suns, saying he will voluntarily sell. And if he's voluntarily selling, he's going to control that. It's the same thing like anybody listening to this that had a divorce, right? If two estranged partners choose to sell their house, they do it amicably, that's fine. But sometimes the court has to get involved. They have to appoint someone to oversee that sale. If the NFL is forcing Snyder to sell, yes, they're going to certainly be able to control the terms of that more than they otherwise would. Or you could have a situation like we have with the Los Angeles Clippers that, I think that sale was $2 billion to Steve Ballmer. They approved of, 5 or 6 entities, and then it was kind of like a blind bidding process. Who would bid the most money of those 6 approved owners? So, yeah, you can certainly see it, but it's more likely to happen if the NFL is overseeing it. If it's just Snyder, Snyder gets to, accept the replacement owner, certainly it's going to be less likely.
Good perspective there. Dan, last thing for you, and again, can't thank you enough for the time. I know you're busy today. Ugly scene, Michigan State in the tunnel. I saw you tweeted about this. Talk about players getting criminally charged and stuff like that. Where does something like that go when we see things that happen on the field or in the stadium or something, on the field, essentially, even though it didn't happen on the field, but you know what I'm saying. Where does this go?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. In the last month, you've had about 4 incidents that I think kind of help give you the continuum here, right? You had the Bobby Wagner thing, tackling a fan. He's getting, I think he's trying to file some type of lawsuit against him. You have the Devontae Adams push of the cameraman or the videographer in the tunnel. And then separately, you have Draymond Green punching a teammate, right? Draymond Green punching a teammate on the court or kind of near the court. There's no suspension. There's no criminal charges. There's no lawsuits or anything like that. But Devontae Adams and Bobby Wagner, who pushed people that are not associated with the team, there are some lawsuits and criminal charges that are flowing there. So, yeah, I mean, if there was a pileup on the field and there was a brawl on the field with maybe 8 Michigan State players punching a Michigan player, and literally their feet are on the field, right, or the game, there's still time on the clock, I think it's certainly less likely to have any type of legal liability. But the fact that it occurred off the field, right after the game, it's no way, shape, or form connected to gameplay. Yeah, you're certainly getting close there. And I know, one of the Michigan players is lawyered up, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I expect a civil lawsuit to follow. I haven't heard anything on criminal charges, but it wouldn't shock me. And the fact that Michigan State so quickly is kind of distancing themselves from those 4 players. And again, remember, Harbaugh said it was a 10-on-1. Michigan State obviously reviewed the tape and isolated 4 guys. So it tells me that those 4, they think, have done something more than just normal punching and shoving. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if criminal charges flowed here.
Dan, last thing, again. Your boy, Dan, Deshaun Watson's coming back in 3 weeks.
He's my boy. So when did that happen?
No.
Hey, Dan, don't let Maz do you like that.
We've been talking about it for so long with you, and now it's finally coming to fruition. He'll be back on the field in 3 weeks. I just wanted to know if there was anything else that was going on with that. I know there's a couple more civil lawsuits that were going against him.
There is. He was sued a 26th time about, it was like 2 weeks ago at this point. But, the lawsuits have not stopped coming. The interesting thing for our purposes, the NFL kind of in the fine print, no one was really paying attention to it. But when they signed that settlement order that Watson would be suspended for the first 11 weeks of the season, they said that if other subsequent claims come forward and they bear I think it was substantially similar to this common nucleus of events, so the things that we know about, if they involve a masseuse, if they're between 2019 and 2021, none of those new claims could actually extend the suspension. So you had 1 new lawsuit filed, but let's say you had 5 or 6, maybe there would be people clamoring for more suspensions. The NFL already agreed not to do that. So there's certainly a situation where Watson could be on the field and playing. He has a good game or bad game in whatever weekend. On a Monday morning, he gets hit with a new lawsuit. So we're not out of the woods on the Watson stuff. And remind everybody, right? We still have a trial in this case that's planned for April of 2023. There is one case, one of the old cases that still remains. So Watson is by no means out of the legal headlines, but people tend to forget about that as football is played and we have subsequent Sundays.
Yeah. Dan Lust on Twitter at Sports Law Lust. You can check him out on the Conduct Detrimental podcast as well, the Sports Law podcast. Great stuff there and really in-depth on Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders. We thank you so much for your time.
Thanks
as
a lot, Dan.
always, sir. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime.
Thanks,
you
Dan.
got it. Dan Lust, everybody.
So detailed.
Absolutely. Great information there. And I think that's really a great point that I want to pick up on, too, in terms of who gets to buy this team.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, assuming he's going to sell it, who gets to buy it? Let's hit that next, and then you'll hear from Brad Holmes as well, talking about the T.J. Hockenson trade. College football playoff news as well. Michigan at 5. Are you comfortable with that? We'll get there all next. But first, a message from Les Stanford Chevrolet Cadillac. No secret that new cars are hard to come by, but they are available at Les Stanford. Got to make a plan. Allocation coming in for lease or purchase of new vehicles. Les Stanford has over 300 pre-owned cars on their lot right now as well. All makes, all models, all years. Some with less than 500 miles on them, so they're like new. Come on down today, practically giving them away. Les Stanford Chevrolet and Cadillac. LesStanford.com. LesStanford.com.
Find new road.
Find them.
At work and at home. We're there with smarter security solutions. Featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
3 NBA championships. Detroit fans were there. 11 Stanley Cups. Detroit fans were there. 4 World Series wins. Detroit fans were there. And that one Lions playoff win in 1991. Yeah, Detroit fans were there. Woodward Sports, where the fans are.
At Alta, uptime matters. Alta Equipment's got everything you need to get the job done.
Uptime, it matters.
Have a big project coming up, Alta Rentals got you covered. Why don't you give them a call today? 844-GO-2-ALTA. That's 844-GO, the number 2, Alta.
First of all, I want to publicly express my appreciation for everything that TJ did for us. He's a good, productive football player for us. And, we had a great relationship since I've been here. And wish him all the best, besides when we're playing him going forward. But he was a good player for us. And, all the moves that we make really is they're well thought out. It's strictly the best interest of the football team, and that is it. Nothing's impulse, nothing is knee jerk, and we're really well thought out, well planned, and we strive to be the best we can, and as adept as possible with all the tough decisions that we have to make for the present and future of our football team, and I do think that this move was reflective of that.
I want to thank our Matty Miller, Lions beat reporter down there at Allen Park, getting sound with Brad Holmes there, Lions general manager, on the heels of trading the former number 1 pick of the Detroit Lions back in 2019, 8th overall. TJ Hockenson is now a Minnesota Viking. The Lions get some picks back. They send some picks as well. Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Mazawey, Fletch, and JB. WoodwardSports.com. Thanks to everybody in the WoodwardSports.com chat.
Yeah, you appreciate those words. You appreciate those words, but excuse me. You appreciate those words, but you're just waiting to see what ultimately happens. Like, he's giving themselves an opportunity. You swap a 2 for a 3, and then a 4th that could be a 5th for the Minnesota Vikings when you get rid of TJ as well. It's one of those deals where, look, it looks like the Lions this season's over for them. It looks like they're relying on what they're going to be able to do in the offseason in 2023 and what they're going to be able to do in the draft. I think the big thing with the Lions now, and it's going to be, and I keep saying it's going to be terrible to hear, but it is what it is. If they get it right next year in the draft and the free agency season, it all looks well. Then it all looks right, especially if you got the right guy calling the plays or being at the helm, and that's Dan Campbell. But if it doesn't look right, if the 2nd round pick next year, you don't get it right, and you don't get the 1st round pick right, and it doesn't happen like he says it's going to happen, or we said in the 3rd round, then you know what? There got to be some consequences that have to go with that. But right now, it just seems like they are prepping up for one hell of a 2023 offseason and one hell of a draft this coming April.
Let's face it, as sad and mad as we are right now as Lion fans, come April, we're going to be jumping out of our shoes. We are.
Yeah.
We are. And I'll tell you what, in all my years of following this team, they've never been set up in year 3 of a regime like they are now. And what I mean by that is, wow, they have got
picks and cash.
5 of top 35 picks. 5 of the top 36 picks.
3 of 35.
Don't forget, Miami's not picking in the 1st round. So that instead of them picking, let's say they finish last, so they'll pick 1st and 32nd. Excuse me, 1st and then 33rd. Now they're picking 1st and 32nd. Because there's no
Miami loses a pick.
Miami loses a pick. I mean, you lose $8 or $9 million off the cap when Hockenson was taken from you. You gave up 2 4th round picks. I get it. But you got that 2nd rounder this year and a 3rd rounder next year. They are set up to flood this team with great talent. All they got to do is pick the right people.
And if they don't, you know what happens?
They're fired.
Throw that full screen up of all the GMs who have been fired since 2018. Think about that for a second. If you don't pick the right players, you're on this list.
You're gone.
Next year, 2 years from now.
And
3 years from now.
And what you have to be confident at what you have to be confident in as a Detroit Lions fan is you look at this list, you say, you know what? All right, cool. Like Matt says, like we talk about, you talk about what the Lions are, what they're set up to be. Like, the setup is very major because structure is important in any phase of life, in any business, especially in sports. Structure and setup they will get you championships. Mm-hmm. They will create success. The Lions right now are set up structurally, at least as it relates to the draft, at least as it relates to free agency with money, to get things right for the first time in 3 years. I think that's the big thing at play for the Lions.
And just to add some context to what you just saw, if you're just tuning in for the first time, that's a list of the 8 general managers, 1 through 8, who picked 1 through 8 in the 2018 NFL draft. Just to add some context to this, there's only 2 that are still employed by their teams.
That's right.
And that's just a couple of years ago, 2018.
All we got to do, Lion fans, is get through the holidays, enjoy Christmas, enjoy Thanksgiving, Christmas. Before you know it, it's the playoffs, so we'll forget about the Lions. Then it's off-season workouts, and we're right there, baby. It's the draft.
That's the real Lion season. That's January to April.
It's just a fact. It's just a fact.
Again, the way Brad Holmes doesn't end up on that list, though, a couple of years from now,
better hit him,
is if Pascal and Hutchinson or Hutchinson and Pascal are their bookend defensive ends.
Don't forget about Williams.
See, Jameson Williams, absolutely.
Jameson
Williams, absolutely, has to be part of that. But Hutchinson and Pascal specifically have to be those guys on the edges for this defense.
Yeah, they definitely got to be the guys on the edges. But if you get two of those right, if you get Aiden Hutchinson, if Aiden Hutchinson finishes his career, the 14.5 sacks by Javon Curse the Freak is the rookie record in the NFL. If Aiden Hutchinson finishes anywhere 10 to 14, he's got Aiden Hutchinson right by the Detroit-based standpoint. By standpoint, they got it right. Then you get Jameson Williams. If he shows you anything of that freakish nature of speed that he had when he was at Alabama, the guys excited, that moved Brad Holmes up 12 picks, then you're giving him a pass for 2023. So he has to get it right with those two guys. But 2023 is going to be a pivotal year regardless for both him and Dan Campbell.
You better – Jameson Williams is like he better be it. He better be it.
But again, when you're the Detroit Lions, or when you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, or when you're the Cleveland Browns, or the Cincinnati Bengals, or insert bad franchise here, really, you can't miss. You don't have it's kind of like a bad team playing football. You don't have the ability to go out there, turn the ball over 3 times, and win that football game. When you are a bad franchise like this, conversely, you don't have time. You don't have the luxury of missing on a second-round pick. You certainly don't have the luxury of missing on a first-round pick. Hell, 2 of them. You can't do it.
You shouldn't have that luxury, but once again, we're talking about the forwards and the Detroit Lions. The forwards have allowed coaches to stay typically longer. Let's call a spade a spade. Haven't used that one in a while. Welcome back. If Matt Patricia wouldn't have been such a you-know-what type of guy, he wouldn't have been a guy that rubbed everybody in Detroit the wrong way, from fans to media to players to you name it, to sponsorships. He rubbed everybody the wrong way.
To pencils.
To pencils. There you go. Number 2 pencils didn't even like the guy. He still would have had another year. He might have been able to sneak another year after that, depending on how that third year went for him. But once again, he was a you-know-what type of guy. He didn't get that time. Conversely, if Brad Holmes, let's say you already got Penei Sewell right, you got Malcolm Rodriguez right, Aiden Hutchinson looks like now, could he have been the number 2 player in the draft? Maybe not, but he looks like he'd be a damn good rush in by the end of the year in terms of his stats. Means you got that one right. Pascal, maybe you got this one right. That you've bought yourself time, and Jameson Williams. So with that being said, the Detroit Lions are the only franchise that coaches and GMs, they get a little bit longer than everybody else.
Dumb question for you.
Yeah.
Who is the best position coach you ever had in the NFL? Best wide receiver coach you ever had in the NFL?
Terry Robisky.
Where was he?
Terry Robisky was Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
And then he also was in Atlanta. Because Robo played for the Raiders, but he was in Washington. He was interim head coach in Washington.
I remember him for Washington. That's what I did.
Miami. He was in Atlanta.
He's been everywhere.
He's been everywhere.
So bottom line, and maybe it's a poor question because, you know, when you came out of Michigan, you had all the talent in the world, number 3 overall pick. If you had a bad position, I assume Robisky was your position coach in Cleveland when you got there. So a bad example, but
I've had some bad position coaches out too.
But what I'm trying to say is, if you're a kid coming out of college, you know, you got all this talent, you get to a team that not only has a bad system, but bad position coaches. You're not developing the way you should. Now you did. And I would say that Robisky probably had a lot of a hand in that. What I'm getting at is, if these guys aren't being coached up now at safety, at defensive back, at defensive line, it doesn't matter who you pick. Right, because at some point talent only takes you so far.
Who's got to make that decision? Who's got to judge them?
I think that's an organizational decision.
It's Chris Spielman would definitely be a guy that helps in that conversation. But the other side of that too, Ryan, and this is just a little insight to what Terry and why he was so good. He not only was a great receiver coach in terms of knowing how to play the game, knowing, giving me the nuances, telling me about the league, but he was able to tell me how to deal with coaches, how to deal with head coaches, how to deal with offensive coordinators, because you're not always going to agree with the conversation that is had. You're just not always going to agree with that. And sometimes it's, a coach versus a coach and a coach versus an offensive coordinator. He was a guy that was very instrumental in letting me know how to deal with that.
I want to get to the college football playoffs coming up in hour number 2, but next we're going to go around the NFL. We'll also talk to Ari Meirov. He's on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. Big following there. Talk about the 20 trades that happened yesterday, trade deadline day, including T.J. Hockenson, and of course we'll get his reaction to Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder potentially selling the Washington football team, the Commanders. But first, a message from Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Lady Jane's, come on in for an award-winning haircut experience. Register for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a down payment for your dream home, up to $200,000. Lady Jane's open 7 days a week. You can walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome. Wicked awesome.
Hi, I'm John from Better Rate Mortgage, and to me, family is more than blood. That's why I have the biggest family in Metro Detroit. If you're looking to buy a house or refinance and need a loan, come get treated better than family by me and our entire team here at Better Rate Mortgage. We pride ourselves on giving you better advice, better service, and a better loan experience. That's why we are Better Rate. If you're looking for a new mortgage, come get treated like family. Actually, better with Better Rate Mortgage. Visit us at mybetterrate.com or call at 248-480-4467 today.
When you need apparel, there's only one place to go. Big Frog in Novi. With no setup fees, no artwork fees, no minimum, and a 24-hour turnaround, you can have your whole team outfitted in no time. Embroidery, direct-to-garment, vinyl, and screen printing, Big Frog has it all in all the styles you want. So whether it's a sports team, fundraiser, school event, or corporate needs, Big Frog is your one-stop destination. Visit bigfrog.com/Novi or call 844-4-BIG-FROG.
Woodward Avenue, the first paved road in America. Woodward Sports, the first sports network born in Detroit and made for Detroit.
Maybe just emphasize it, that this is a reality of the situation. You don't sugarcoat it. You say it for what it is, and then these are the things we have to do moving forward. It's still in terms of playing the game and getting better, it's still about improving. It's still about all the little details, the fundamentals, turnovers, takeaways, penalties, and that all happens in practice, starts in practice, started in the walkthrough, and then it goes to our practice. So it's all about staying focused on those things.
Dan Campbell talking about how to move forward here this year and beyond. Because Dan Campbell's going nowhere this year, Bray. And Tom Mazawey, you have thoughts on that?
I do. First of all, we hear Dan every week. That's because we have to, because that's what the NFL makes their coaches do. They have to talk to us. They got to talk to the media. They got to let the fans know what's going on. So you hear a lot of the same crap on all the coaches, except Bill Belichick. He'll just sit there and go, Dan Campbell, you got coach speak. I know every time I play a cut, and I'm like, hey, Ryan, sit down, listen to this. And within 5 seconds, Ryan's like, okay, I'm done. I've had enough. And everyone says the same thing. It's because they have to answer the same freaking questions every week. I just want to say this. Dan Campbell, yes, we lost the Viking game and might have lost another game by in-coaching decisions, in-game decisions. But this guy has the tools to be a very good head coach. Started with Bill Parcells, moved over to the Dolphins on an interim basis. Got the most out of that team. Yeah, they had a losing record. They didn't make the playoffs. And then he went under Sean Payton for all those years. He's not a dummy, all right? I know you guys, everyone thinks he's a big meathead and he can't coach. I believe that this guy can be an excellent coach in the NFL. Nobody can get a lot of wins out of this sad sack team. They don't have the talent. And they brought back the same guys as last year, brought in a couple of rookies injured, didn't get on the field. Pascal just getting on the field. Jamison Williams, not yet. Jerry Jacobs from last year, just getting on the field. You see some improvements. You see some players that are improving. Maybe he doesn't have the right coaches. We all lauded that coaching staff he had. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe he's wrong there. Maybe he's got to have to redo that coaching staff. But I still believe in this guy. And call me crazy, I guess.
I wouldn't call you crazy, and the reason why I wouldn't call you crazy is because I look at my experience when I was with Rex Ryan. Now, obviously, Rex Ryan has been a part of football his whole life. His father's Buddy Ryan. His twin brother is one of the best defensive coaches they've ever, and him and Rob Ryan and Rex Ryan. But Rex as a head coach was a bit of a meathead himself. He's a meathead. He's funny. He's sexy, Rexy. Like, you know, he doesn't really give you coach speak. He doesn't really give you in-depth and break down the offense because he's not an offensive-minded guy. But even on defense, he deferred to Brian Pettin when I was there. Pettin would obviously become the head coach of the Cleveland Browns for some time. Like, he could have been considered a meathead, and we struggled a little bit my first year there. I think we ended up going 9-7. That's how we made the playoffs, 9-7, and everything happened right. But as he was given pieces, it looked better. He was able to coach better. His coaches were able to coach better. As you bring in LaDainian Tomlinson in 2010, as you bring in this piece on the defensive end to help out and balance the side, as you bring in Antonio Cromartie, so now that on the other side, Revis Island, it's Revis Island, now it's Cromartie Island as well. So as you added more players to Rex Ryan's speak came off a lot better because we were rolling and we were winning and it was easier for him. So I definitely agree with Maz. If you give a guy like Dan Campbell, who's an extra motivator of men, if you give him some more players, it looks better because you get good players that know the hell what Dan Campbell's talking about when he's talking to the team and can relay that message to the other players. But it takes veteran players along with young players to get it right, and maybe the right coaches as well, because there were a couple coaching changes where Rex Ryan when I was there from 2009 to 2010. Couple changes and not coaching changes, and I think they gave us that next level. We went from 9-6 till we go to 12-4. So to your point, you add more players. I think Dan Campbell's message is better, but definitely on that defensive side of the ball, they got to make some decisions on the coaching staff. Just the defensive side, I'm actually even fine with the offensive side. Defensive side, got to make it so that you can help the Detroit Lions.
The problem with Campbell is this for me. I just haven't seen it. You know, we always talk about it, and I love Dan Campbell. It's in the best interest of the Detroit Lions organization and their fans if this is the guy, but it's just too chaotic. You know, it's just too chaotic right now. He's been here a year and a half. He's fired 2 position coaches. He's fired his offensive coordinator year 1. He's fired a defensive position coach in year 2. I don't think there's a coach in the National Football League that has fired more coaches in season in the last year and a half than Dan Campbell. That speaks to me that you have a lack of belief in what you're doing. You are A, not hiring the right guys, and B, you're not giving them the latitude to, you know, commit to a plan or something like that. Now, I'm not saying, you know, if you see something that's clearly not working, you got to stick with it, but it's just so chaotic. The fourth downs, which are great to go with, and you know, this play, I believe he lost in the Minnesota Vikings game. I believe that was on Dan Campbell. And I believe the Seattle Seahawks game is also on Dan Campbell.
Okay, Ryan, I give you that. I agree with you. But just like anybody else that is doing something at the highest level for the very first time, it takes time. And I know we don't want to hear it takes time. You're not gonna, if you look at an NFL roster in terms of coaches, there are a lot of damn names on that list that you have to hire. You're not going to get everyone right. You're not going to get even 80% of it right. But when you know you didn't get it right, how fast do you act and get the right guys in there is, I think, the change that people want to see with Dan Campbell. You're not going to get it right. To Maz's point, you're going to have to tweak some things as a first-year head coach. But the difference is, how fast do you tweak those things when you see him, or do you sit on them and be loyal? And I think he got a good friend of his, A-Lin, out of there. Fast. He's a guy that's been knowing A-Lin for a very long time. A-Lin's a good consultant, not necessarily a good offensive coordinator. He removed A-Lin fast. He removed Ari Present this year before it got out of hand, after he saw Amon-Ra 6 penalties, and in the next game you see players out of position in the Dolphins game. So it seems like he's making the decisions when they should happen, as opposed to just sitting and riding the wave because these are my homeboys and we summer together with the families. I think he's at least getting that part right.
Listen, as a Jets and Giants guy growing up, I'm happy that they're doing well. But I don't believe for a second that it's real. I don't.
Bradley Chubb?
No, Jets and Giants.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking.
He's a Dolphin.
I'm on the Dolphins' mind.
He's a Dolphin, and they're unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're all in, by the way.
I tipped my hand today. I just tipped my hand.
So, I just want to say, let's see how the Jets and Giants are for the rest of this year and into next year. Because right now, yeah, they played well the first 8 weeks of the season. They did. Congratulations. I want to see it continue. If it does, then I'll tip my hat to Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll and say, wow, they definitely got the better coach. Because the crap show that Dan Campbell took over here, freaking Vince Lombardi couldn't make them win.
And that's fine. And I want to be very clear here, because I'm not saying that Dan Campbell should be fired or anything like that. I am not saying that. I hope he turns it around. What I am saying is that, 6 months ago, I said that the Detroit Lions were going to win a Super Bowl with Dan Campbell as their head coach. I'm not so certain that's the case now. I'm hoping that happens. I hope he grows into this job and becomes all of these things that we thought he was going to be 6 months ago. What I'm saying is I am not as hardcore a believer like I once was.
Now,
there are some chinks in the armor, that's for sure.
Is that Dan Campbell's fault, or is that your fault for putting too high expectations on Dan Campbell and what you thought you saw from the Detroit Lions?
I expect every NFL coach that gets hired that their goal is to win a Super Bowl for the franchise that they were just hired to.
It is.
So I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation to have of Dan Campbell or of insert Nick Sirianni or anybody.
You only got 6 Super Bowl wins in the last 12 years.
Right.
So it's tough to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. You only have 6 teams that have won a Super Bowl in the last 13, 14, 15 years. Only 6 or 7 teams. Because the Patriots are one of them. They've won 7 of them. And then insert Tom Brady again with Tampa Bay, and insert the Rams, and insert the Eagles. It's only a couple teams that have won the Super Bowl in the last 12, 15 years. It is a tough thing to do.
This is a team that's won 1 playoff game in 31 years.
Yeah, but Dan...
And you got him in the freaking Super Bowl.
If Dan Campbell doesn't have that belief, what are we doing?
He has the belief.
Okay, so why can't I have the belief in him?
I believe Santa Claus is still going to come.
But why can't I have that belief in him if he's got that belief in himself?
I believe in Santa.
Enough with that. I don't even like joking like that.
I do.
Okay, good.
I love Santa.
Good.
I
love
track
Santa
him every
Claus
Christmas
too.
Eve.
Thank you.
I got the app. I track him.
Good. What I'm saying is,
be careful. We got kids to watch the show.
If he's got this belief in, if he has the belief in himself, if the organization has the belief in him to hire him with that goal, why shouldn't I have that thought that Dan Campbell should win a Super Bowl?
We all do. We all have a nice dream when we go to bed at night that our team's going to win the Super Bowl. Okay. Congratulations.
Very good.
Good.
Guys, big trade deadline yesterday in the NFL. We're going to talk to Ari Meirov from Pro Football Focus. He's on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. We'll track him down. We'll do it next. But first, a message from Chili Peppers Tanning.
All right, fellas. 27 locations and a couple right here on Woodward Avenue. And if you join the Chili Peppers Club, they're going to save you $5 against any competitor's prices on unlimited tanning and more. And get all those. You get to hang in the cleanest salons in the D. They are the hottest deals, the hottest bulbs, the darkest tans. They're your vitamin D headquarters. It's ChiliPeppersTanning.com.
Woodward Sports is giving you another chance to sit front row, this time at the Detroit versus Green Bay game. Think you have the best Dan Campbell impression?
Woodward Sports, let's go.
Can you say man with the best of them?
I got it. Here's what I need, man. I need you to trust me. I swear to God, I'm not a lunatic. I swear to you.
Can you say, let's go for it on 4th down?
Man, I got a plan, I swear to you. All I think about is you guys. That's all I think about, man.
Are you a master motivator?
That's all I think about is you guys.
Show us in a video. Record your best Dan Campbell impression and post the video on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag #WoodwardFrontRow. We'll select the best 3 impersonations of Motor City Dan Campbell and send you and a guest front row. So knock the dust off the old sweatpants, light some kneecaps, and enter today. And as always, go Lions, man.
I just need you to trust me. That's all. Please.
I don't care if I got 1 toe, 2 butt cheeks, and a rock.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1, what's your why? More epic energy, better sleep, blow off steam? Step 2, join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3, bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dr. Jason Olafson, DC, the founder of the Custom Health Centers, and we've helped thousands of people learn how easy it is to lose weight and keep it off with our customized weight loss and body contouring programs.
With Custom Health, you don't feel hungry, you eat well. My name is Simeon Timbuk, and I lost 71 pounds on the program.
Call us at 844-789-THIN or visit CustomHealthCenters.com for a free consultation and get started for as little as $5 a day.
The only sports network in Detroit that starts with a W. You know, because we win. Woodward Sports, Detroit's winning sports network.
Centron is the official energy drink of the Detroit Red Wings, and for a limited time, they have put their 3 flavors, that is cranberry, sugar-free, and classic, into a limited edition 6-pack. CentronWorld.com/Red Wing is where you can go to get it. I drink the cranberry one in the morning. Gives me the energy that I need to do the show that you guys love to watch. So check them out. Drink it. Live it with Centron.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the program. It is 3 o'clock here in the city of Detroit. Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Mazawey, Fletch, and JB. If you're watching live, it's 3 o'clock. If you're not watching live, I don't know what time it is for you.
7 o'clock.
Right. Insert your own time here. We'll say top of hour number 2. Thanks for being along with us. Guys, let's jump back into the NFL. Covers the NFL for Pro Football Focus. Good friend of the show. He's on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. One of the best, Ari Meirov, and he's less than 400 followers away from hitting 600,000.
Yeah,
so let's see if we can get him to 600,000 by the end of this show. How you doing, Ari?
Doing well, guys. Thank you for the kind words. What a crazy week. How about that? Let's start off with that.
I'm telling you, man.
Where do we start?
And we'll start with the news of the day. Dan Snyder securing Bank of America securities to inquire about a possible sale of the team. Whether it's the whole team, a majority of the team, we still don't know. What are you hearing, Ari?
Well, this is just my opinion on all of it, but
Very
up
respected.
until now, Dan Snyder has been, I'm not selling the team. We won't sell the team. No chance to sell the team. This is my team. And now all of a sudden, tone has changed. I'm considering it. And I feel like it's a slow approach to him selling the whole thing. I mean, it makes no sense to me at least, to sell a little bit of it or a small stake. And I don't even know who would want to work with this guy, because at this point, it sounds like everybody is anti-Dan Snyder and owners are against him. And why would anybody want to join this situation where he can't even secure a stadium from anywhere in Washington, in any of the locations that are possible? All the governors are saying no to giving him any money. So I don't know why anybody would want to join as a minority stake. So it feels like for this to come out today, for them to put out a statement basically confirming it and not denying it, I think it's major news. And I think slowly but surely we're getting to a point where eventually Washington fans for the first time might hear the magic words that Dan Snyder is selling.
Here's the thing that's going around right now. I'm sorry, it's been a minute since I've seen you. Here's an interesting thing going on. Obviously, the first name that comes to mind whenever you talk about any team being sold in the Northern Hemisphere is always Jeff Bezos. But with that being said, him buying an NFL team, would that be conflict of interest considering he owns Amazon Prime, which produces the Thursday night game, and next year they produce the Black Friday game as well? Would that be a conflict of interest with Bezos being an owner?
I'm not sure if it would be or if it wouldn't be. I also don't know. I'm sure he might be interested in the Washington Commanders, but I've also heard some rumblings that the team that he might be eyeing even more is the Seattle Seahawks whenever that one becomes available. So I'm kind of curious to know if he actually wants to go after Washington, if this does actually happen, or if he's waiting for Jody Allen to eventually sell in Seattle. Her husband passed away, Paul Allen, and a lot of people believe that team eventually will get to a point where they will be sold. So I'm not 100% sure if there's a conflict of interest, but if there is, I would imagine Jeff Bezos knew about it before agreeing to become the Thursday night football place for the NFL, because obviously everyone has been talking about it for years, taking over an NFL team, and if it means him having Thursday night football and paying billions of dollars instead of owning a team and making billions of dollars, I'm not really sure if that really makes much sense.
Okay.
Absolutely. Ari, busy week for you, man. It's like the NHL trade deadline. The NFL, I'm loving what I'm seeing. I wish the trade deadline would even be next week because I want more. We'll start here with our Detroit Lions and TJ Hockenson getting shipped off in-house, man, in the division to the Minnesota Vikings. What's your take on this thing?
First of all, I do agree with you. The NFL made the season 18 weeks. The NFL trade deadline used to be after week 6. They moved it to after week 8. I think they should move it to after week 10 when everybody knows where they are right now, and there will be even more action. We'll see if they revisit that in the offseason. I'm sure the NFL loved seeing what happened yesterday. As for TJ Hockenson, that was one of 2 trades that really stunned me yesterday because I knew that extension talks weren't going over well there, and they couldn't get a deal done in the offseason. But to trade him for a combination of picks going back and forth in the division when he's 25 years old, when he still has 1 more year left on his contract, it just doesn't feel right. And then seeing Brad Holmes today, I read a couple of local reporters' tweets saying that even if we were 6-1, we would trade him. And Dan Campbell spoke and basically mentioned how, it gives opportunities to other guys, and when they'll be on the field, potentially better things will happen. I don't really know what the problem was with TJ Hockenson. Obviously, tight end position is one of those positions where when you get in the league, it doesn't just happen quickly for you like some other positions. It takes some time, and we've seen that with a bunch of different players. TJ Hockenson is an ascending player who is really, really good. And the tight end market, when it comes to making money, we saw the wide receiver market explode this offseason, up to $30 million. The tight end market has been a very, very slow market. It's like a turtle. It's been 10 million, 11 million, 12 million. It barely moves. So you're not even paying this guy that much whenever you do have an extension. I would imagine maybe they want somebody who could block better. At PFF, his run blocking grade is under 50. Maybe that's part of it. But to trade him in division for a swap of picks, I guess we'll have to see what happens in the offseason when Detroit has 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. Maybe they have something up their sleeve. But this was the one trade that I was confused about, and many people around the league were also very confused about. Not just the destination, but the return and doing it now. Why even now? Why not wait till after the season? So a lot of questions for me there.
Yeah, I mean, we're scratching our heads since 1957 here, Ari. So when you get some answers on the Detroit Lions, let us know. Absolutely. Hey, Ari, I wanted to ask you, in the NFC specifically, we saw Christian McCaffrey go to the 49ers, TJ Hockenson go to the Vikings, and Robert Quinn go to the Eagles. If you look, Eagles, 49ers, and Vikings, which one of those 3 moves do you think will be the biggest of them all? Is it McCaffrey? Is it Quinn? Is it Hockenson?
I think it's hard to argue it not being Christian McCaffrey. And I think we would all agree that they did give up a little bit, maybe too much for a player who has an injury history and you're taking up that contract. But Kyle Shanahan, since he got hired by the 49ers, has had success with all these running backs who are undrafted guys, 6th round, 7th round picks, whether it's Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, and on and on. And he's failed with guys who were drafted like in the 3rd round, the 4th round. He paid Jerick McKinnon. So the question is, if you're having success with those undrafted guys, you're failing with the guys you're actually investing some real stuff in. What are you looking for? So he's getting the top of the top, Christian McCaffrey. He's been there for a week and a half, and he's already doing stuff on the field, whether it's in the receiving game, the running game, even throwing touchdown passes. Clearly, Kyle Shanahan has been looking for a different type of running back, someone who could do a little bit more, something that he could draw up in his little room and make up all these plays. And we just got a small glimpse of it against the Rams last Sunday. Now they have a bye week. I am fascinated to see what he's able to do once Deebo is back on the field, once Christian McCaffrey really knows the playbook. I mean, I feel like the possibilities are really endless here with the 49ers. And this is the thing. This is a team that every single week this season, they've had at least 2 starting players get injured every single week. This past week was the first week where nobody got injured. They're coming off a bye now. They have the bye. They come back from the bye. They get back more players. That defense could be really ferocious. I think as they keep on getting healthier, and once they have everyone back on the field, that offense has potential to be really, really scary.
Talking to Ari Meirov, Pro Football Focus, covers the NFL on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. Ari, interesting. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford. None of them are having the seasons that they want. Their teams are not very good right now. None of them did anything at the trade deadline. What do you think those 3 quarterbacks wake up and say this morning?
I think the one that has the right to be disappointed the most would be Aaron Rodgers. And simply put, this is a team that just paid me $15 million per year. They trade away Davante Adams. They've gotten to see 8 weeks of this team with this receiver group, and it's just not working out. And we have all 7 of our draft picks next year, and we kept all of it and decided not to do anything. Even though we were in on a few things, we were in on Chase Claypool, somebody else got in, whatever. We did nothing. The Rams were coming off a Super Bowl. Our entire offensive line has been injured. And on top of that, we have, we've traded a lot of our draft picks. And the Buccaneers, same thing, offensive line injuries, but they've also traded some of the draft picks where it's a little bit harder for them to make the moves. Green Bay at least has all their draft picks. Green Bay traded away Davante Adams. You brought back Aaron Rodgers. Those other 2 teams have at least won Super Bowls the last 2 years. This is a team that doesn't benefit by losing right now. They need to win in this window, and they did nothing. So I think the one quarterback who has the right to be disappointed would be Aaron Rodgers. The other 2 teams, they are getting a little bit healthier. There are some problems up front, but I understand them not doing anything. When you look at the capital they had available to move, it wasn't as much as what Green Bay could have possibly done.
Hey, I just wanted to point out that our technical producer, Fletch, pointed out your setup is very different than what it used to be, and now he's got me looking. I just want to say, congrats on the smooth setup there, brother. That came from Fletch. Go ahead, man.
We added some stuff over here. Yeah, we added some stuff over here. It's getting better. We're almost there.
There you go. Oh, it's a journey. It's a journey.
You're on your way to 1 million followers, Ari. That's right. Come on now. Hey, last one for me. I thought this was a 4-team race in the NFL. I thought it was San Francisco and the Eagles, and I thought it was the Bills and the Chiefs. But I got to throw the Dolphins in there now. With the moves they made, getting Bradley Chubb, Jeff Wilson, who I think is very underrated. He goes over there, joins Raheem Mostert. He's got the San Francisco backfield again in Miami. What's your take on what the Dolphins did? And are they up there with the big boys?
Coming into the season, everyone was asking the question about Tua, and this is a team that finally added so many offensive weapons, finally committed to him. After the first year, there was Ryan Fitzpatrick. Second year was Deshaun Watson. This year, it's you. We're adding pieces around you. The coach is committed to you. And look at it. They added pieces around the quarterback, and he's doing well. And now, this is a bit of a take, but I think the biggest winner yesterday from everyone was Tua, because the Dolphins came into this season with 2 first-round picks. They had a first-round pick taken away because they tampered with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. They traded another first-round pick because they went out to get Bradley Chubb, who's going to be awesome for them. They don't have a first-round pick next year, which means they're committed to Tua, which I also believe come next offseason, this upcoming offseason, Tua is eligible for an extension, and he could go up to them and say, I just had my best year. You guys don't have a first-round pick to replace me. He could maybe pull off a little bit of a Kyler Murray and force their hand to pay him right now, because they don't have anything to replace him anymore because they don't have those first-round picks. So I think Tua came out as a winner. As for this team, yeah, Mike McDaniel has been awesome as head coach. He's drawing up all these plays. When Tua starts and finishes the game, they're 5-0 on the year. Tyreek Hill had, I believe, 3 out of the top 4 receiving yards games this season belongs to one player, in Tyreek Hill. So he's been an amazing addition. And that defense, when Mike McDaniel was hired, they kept the entire defensive staff from Brian Flores because they liked everybody. So they didn't change anybody. The same coaches are there. They still have most of the same players. Now you're adding Bradley Chubb. People forget Byron Jones has not played this year, another top cornerback for them. He's going to come back very soon. That defense is really good. That offense could be very scary of how they're drawing up plays. And, Tua has proven a lot of people wrong this year.
So what it seems like, it doesn't necessarily matter as long as you got the right guy for the job.
That's right. Ari, we can't thank you enough for doing this, man. Know you're busy today. Really love your work on Pro Football Focus and, of course, on Twitter. And on your way to 1 million followers. Not bad. Pretty good. Thanks, Ari.
I appreciate you guys. All the best.
Always a pleasure.
Take care.
You got it. Check Ari out on Twitter at MySportsUpdate. We are going to take a break. Come right back. When we do, we're going to get it. We can react to some of this. Also, got to get into some college football. College football playoff Week 1.
Playoffs.
The rankings are out. Do you have a problem with it or not? We'll talk about it. But first, a message from Guardian Alarm. They're your local security experts, have been for over 90 years. See that black and yellow sign out in front of your house? Tells the bad guy one thing.
Out.
Whether you are at home or on the road, they're 24/7 local monitoring. Make sure what is important to you is safe. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT for peace of mind. 1-800-STAY-OUT. Call them today and tell them Woodward Sports sent you.
The Sports Marketing Agency would not be who we are without great community partners like Higuera Health and Carol Zuniga.
It's an awesome opportunity to partner with your organization. Higuera Health is a comprehensive behavioral health organization. We serve children through older adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities across Western Wayne counties, and really excited to now be in downriver communities as well. Give us a call at 734-458-4601.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit, but we do have a guy named Darren McCarty on our side.
Lemieux and McCarty, who've had a good knockdown drag up. There they go, right on the whistle. They were talking to one another.
Woodward Sports.
Hey gang, it's Mads for Big Boy, and you know it, for a limited time only. Got to get down to Big Boy for those loaded fries and those new burgers. And it's not the Slim Jim anymore, you know it. You got to call it the Big Jim. How about the bacon blue burger and the chili cheese burger and those fries? You got to decorate them up. You got to make chili cheese fries, nacho fries, baked potato fries. Got to satisfy those taste buds. Do it at Big Boy.
Big Boy. Hey now, Braylon, what did you think of anything in particular that jumped out to you from what Ari had to say at the trade deadline, or Snyder, or anything like that?
Great content. I think he makes a good point about Jeff Bezos. That was a question asked to me by my homeboy Tom T. Shout out to DJ Tom T. He was asking about, is there a conflict of interest? And I think Ari Meirov answered it extremely well. Said, if there was, then he wouldn't have been pursuing this for the last couple of years. I think he answered that one. And then also talking about what was the best, this is a question by you, what was the best move in the NFC? Like, what's the move that's going to take the team over the top? And you can argue both moves. You can argue Robert Quinn going to the Philadelphia Eagles, because now the Eagles are perfect on defense. They have the best two-headed monster at DB. Now you have Fletcher Cox. Jordan Davis is injured, but he'll be back. You have the other side is killing it. Now you bring in Robert Quinn, and now you have Brandon Graham on the other side. There's nowhere for people to go on that defense. There's nowhere you can run. There's nowhere you can pass. That defense is set up for perfection. But, man, when you think about Christian McCaffrey, CMC, and what he showed you in just week 2, you're talking about a guy that hasn't been at the facility for 2 weeks, and he's already showing you, hey, we're going to roll you out and throw a pass. You know how long it takes to implement a running back pass or a double pass by a wide receiver, to get that implemented, to feel confident enough to do it, or throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey in the back of the end zone. It takes confidence and level. That's what happens when you keep your experience, your veteran quarterback, and Jimmy G, and you bring him back and you restructure his contract. This is what you call winning football by John Lynch, winning football in Kyle Shanahan. You bring in Christian McCaffrey, you know how to tweak him, you know that he's the piece that's missing. You restructure the deal at Jimmy G, because you're not necessarily sold on going out to be Trey Lance. You know what? My friend has a book that he says he recommends everybody read it. It's Negative to Neutral. So many times people want to just get out of a situation. Let's turn a negative into positive. Sometimes you can't turn a negative into a positive, but what you can do is go negative back to neutral to eventually get you to the positive. And I think that move by Jimmy G was what you call negative to neutral.
If Christian McCaffrey stays healthy and stays on the field, the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl.
Win the Super Bowl.
And they're going to beat the Bills.
That's how confident you are in that acquisition.
Yes.
They seem to be.
They already got the defense.
Yeah.
The good thing about that move, and I'm going to tell you who's going to benefit most from that move. And everybody will say Deebo Samuel. See?
Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk is going to be the biggest beneficiary for the 49ers.
He's picking up steam
with that move.
every week.
And Deebo didn't play last week.
No.
Now when Deebo comes back, your focus has to be on Deebo Samuel, because when he touches the ball, he will score from anywhere. He will break tackles. He will run by guys. He will jump over guys. With Christian McCaffrey, your focus got to be in the backfield. He's coming out of the backfield. Is it a screen? Are they going to throw the ball to him? Is he going to run the dive power counter? But now you got Brandon Ayuk, who you're not paying attention to, because you're also focused on George Kittle. Brandon Ayuk is going to be Brandon Ayuk will be Mecole Hardman when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl because they were focused on everybody else, and Mecole Hardman almost reaped the benefits. That's going to be Brandon Ayuk.
The key is stay healthy.
Yeah. I was going to say, because healthy, if you relate it back to the Detroit Lions, because I'm always trying to relate it back to the Detroit Lions.
As you should.
Could you see a scenario where
no.
Christian McCaffrey was here?
No, where like Dabo or Debo. Thinking of college football, we're going to get there next, friggin' Clemson. Where Debo and Ayuk could be like a Jameson Williams and a St. Brown, and Swift, if healthy, could play a role. So not like CMC, but could be somewhat similar
lesser
to that. I mean, could that be a poor man's version of what the 49ers have now? You've got them on the team. You just got to get them healthy.
I would say a broke man's, not a poor man's.
Yeah, I would agree with Matt. It's definitely a broke man's. And the reason why is because you would essentially be trying to compare Debo Samuel to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that just ain't the case.
No, but I would Jameson Williams to Debo Samuel. No.
Because James.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
It was a good try.
I digress. Guys, I want to get some college football. Blake Corum spoke to the media, and I want to play some of that for you. This is from Blake Corum, courtesy of Brad Galley.
Blake, when you watched those videos that were online, what happened in the tunnel, what was going through your head, and how do you feel about it?
Frustrated, disappointed, wishing I could have done something. But, I'm not going to talk too much on it. Coach Harbaugh is going to handle that. It's being handled. But, just disappointed and frustrated.
Anthony, it's just from your team's headspace standpoint, how has everyone responded to Saturday, and how do you sort of refocus ahead of this week?
Obviously Saturday was a big win, right? We got Paul back. Some stuff happened. You know what I'm saying? We're letting them handle that. So now it's just like, let's keep winning. You know what I'm saying? We're on the Rutgers. And that's what our mindset is. That's why we're here on this, this Monday. That's what we're going to do. We're going to watch Rutgers and just game plan.
How are the two players?
And that's the thing I'm happy about with where Michigan's program is under Jim Harbaugh. You see the first question, like Blake Corum's a 21-year-old kid. I think he's 20. He'll be 21 this coming winter. He'll be 21. He's 20. He's coached by the right coach. The right message. You see him, he says he's disappointed. Says he wish he could have done something to help, which is the first reaction that you want to have. I mean, hey, you see your teammate get jumped like that. That's the reaction you're going to have, Ryan Ermanni. But then the next thing he said he was disappointed. You can't be disappointed in somebody unless you believe in somebody to be a higher standard, or you believe that somebody is something different. You respect the rivalry, and you know that Michigan State respects the rivalry too. So for him to say he's disappointed, that lets you know what he and other people at Michigan, and even people at Michigan State, feel about that moment is the disappointment, because there's respect there, and you don't do something like that to someone you respect. He says that Michigan's he's letting Jim Harbaugh handle it. So I love that. But the best thing about that is Blake Corum is, you can arguably say he's the best running back to come through Michigan since Mike Hart. Now you can, and I don't think, I won't argue that. To be honest, he is. He's so focused on the next game. Mm-hmm. He's always focused on the team. He's always focused on the mission. I told you when I ran into him after the Iowa Big Ten Championship, first thing I said, man, you guys out there doing it, man. I see it. He said, man, on to the next one. That's always his motto, is moving on to the next one. Whoever is next week, now this week is Rutgers. After the Rutgers game, you know what he's going to say? Hey, you know what? This game's behind us. He's at the press conference, but the game's already behind him. He's focusing on the next game. When you have a mentality like that, that's how you stay on the right track to do what needs to be done. Shout out to Blake Corum in Michigan.
How about that one play he did in the game? It's the best play of the game. When I think 10 people hit him, including his own people, including his own teammates, when he just kept running and they could not tackle him. And he's a one-man wrecking crew, man, and I don't care what size he is. He's got, man, a heart of a lion, that kid.
He's tough. He talked about bulking up. That was one of the big things we talked about earlier in the year. He put on more muscle mass. He's a shorter guy. No disrespect, Blake. He's a shorter guy, much like Mark, but that Mike, the center of gravity. So when you mix balance in with muscle and with that center of gravity, it's tough to tackle individuals like that, whether it's Mike Hart, whether it's Barry Sanders, whether it's even Darren Sproles, who is another small guy. It's tough to tackle guys that are strong with low center of gravity.
I'm going to make a comparison. I want to ask you guys if this is a fair comparison or anything that can remotely be tied together. Interested to hear your thoughts on this and college football playoff. I promise we'll get to it next. But first, a message from Custom Health Centers. Maz, how you doing? How you feeling, baby?
I feel good, man. Well, so far, so good.
I'm telling you. So Maz and I both started this week. And again, what is Custom Health Centers? It's custom to you. Maz is on a different plan than I'm on. I'm on a different plan than he's on. If you want to lose 20 pounds, if you want to lose 120 pounds, Custom Health Centers is the place to do it. They do it safely. Nurses, doctors, coaches, whatever you want it to be, that's what you're going to get. And Custom Health Centers, Maz, I'm telling you, I feel great.
I know you did. You came in today like, Maz, I'm not hungry. I'm feeling good.
Well, one of the things they say is it takes the willpower out of weight loss. I really am not hungry, and I'm doing just okay by not eating as much food as I normally eat. How do you get there? 844-789-THIN, 844-789-THIN, or call, look them up online at CustomHealthCenters.com.
Do it.
Woodward Sports is giving you another chance to sit front row, this time at the Detroit versus Green Bay game. Think you have the best Dan Campbell impression?
Woodward Sports, let's go.
Can you say man with the best of them?
I got it. Here's what I need, man. I need you to trust me. I swear to God, I'm not a lunatic. I swear to you.
Can you say, let's go for it on 4th down?
Man, I got a plan, I swear to you. All I think about is you guys. That's all I think about, man.
Are you a master motivator?
That's all I think about is you guys.
Show us in a video. Record your best Dan Campbell impression and post the video on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag Woodward Front Row. We'll select the best 3 impersonations of Motor City Dan Campbell and send you and a guest front row. So knock the dust off the old sweatpants, light some kneecaps, and enter today. And as always, go Lions, man.
I just need you to trust me. That's all. Please.
I don't care if I got one toe, 2 butt cheeks, and a rock.
You don't have to go to the beach, man. You don't have to get your butt crack full of sand. You just need a little chili peppers, man, to get that glowing beach chili peppers tan. Woo!
With 26 locations in the Metro Detroit area and more coming, Chili Peppers Tanning is where you'll find the cleanest salons in the D. Join the Pepper Club for the best deals on unlimited tanning. Head to chilipepperstanning.com.
You just need a little chili peppers, man.
We aren't quite sure if they consume more beer or sports. Either way, the heavyweights are here. Live on Woodward Sports, daily 5 to 7 p.m.
23 years in the game, and he has got it right. Top priority, that's what he's going to be for you. My man, Michael Phillips at Keller Williams Legacy in Dearborn. We had a great time there last Thursday. The family atmosphere was amazing, and that's what it is. Keller Williams and Mike Phillips, they are family. They want you to be family as well. Whether you are a player, a fan, helping you buy, sell, and invest is going to be his top priority. Call 313-403-0011. Game on.
Welcome back, WoodwardSports.com, Woodward Sports Network. Brian Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Mazawey.
I just want to say, Ari Meirov just reached back out to me and told me how much fun he had. He says, "You guys are great, Maz."
That's
love Ari Meirov.
Isn't that nice?
It is nice. And
shout
I feel
out to
like
Ari and Maz. That's Maz connection, man. So
that is,
Maz
and I feel like we hit Ari before he blew up too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So very good. If you missed the interview with Ari Meirov from Pro Football Focus, talked about the trade deadline, talked about Dan Snyder and the potential sale of the Washington Commanders.
And talked about how everyone in the NFL was shocked on that Hockenson trade.
That was interesting as well.
Yeah. Guys, I want to talk college football. And I'm going to make this comparison, and I want to see what you guys think of it. And I really haven't given it much thought, but it kind of...
You're working this stick out. You're working it out.
I'm working through it on the air. This fight, this assault, whatever you want to call it.
By the way, 4 more
in the tunnel. That's what I was going to get to.
suspended.
So 4 more Michigan State players have been suspended indefinitely from the team. So we got that news yesterday.
Including a starting linebacker.
Absolutely.
He's the best player.
So that aside, Could this have the effect? Remember the brawl, the Malice at the Palace, where the Pacers just totally went in the tank, and the Pistons ascended to a championship, and
wasn't that after?
six straight Eastern Conference
it was
finals?
after. It was right after.
So, I mean, could this be a situation where Michigan State just completely tanks now and goes south for the next couple of years, and Michigan continues to ascend?
I think this was the final piece. I would agree with that. I think it already was on that track. I tell you like this, K9, masked a team last year that really was not that good. K9 helped them save face, and K9 won them some games, including the Michigan game in Michigan State last year. They were already kind of on that path. You look at them hiring Mel Tucker during Zoom in 2020. They go 2-6 in 2020. Michigan was their saving grace. Last year, K9 was their saving grace, another win against Michigan. But I think this was that final piece, because it's going to be tough. You're going to get parents looking at that school like, do I want to send my kids to this school? You're going to get kids like, hell, do I want to be a part of that? It doesn't seem like Mel Tucker has the pulse, and this is just coming from what the kids that are coming into school could be thinking. I think that Michigan State, this is a very pivotal moment for them, and I don't think it's looking good. And I think this is that nail in the coffin. They're going to be struggling for a while.
I think this year they're finished. I truly believe they're finished. I thought they were finished prior to playing Michigan. I was shocked they beat Wisconsin. They showed me a little something there. I said they're not going to be a bowl team game, and I still believe they will not make a bowl. So as for next year, the year after, I think they could damage control themselves at it. I think Mel Tucker's got plenty of cigars in his drawer to pass out, and I think he'll get it back going again. But this year, forget it.
I think you want to say, and I think I want to say as well, like I said, Mel Tucker, Cleveland, I have a connection to Mel Tucker. You want Mel Tucker to get it back on track, because if Mel Tucker gets it back on track, then it's good for the state. Last year, even though Michigan lost to Michigan State, and trust me, it did hurt Michigan as well as alums and fans, etc., but it was a fun time in the state of Michigan. It was fun to see two programs that one was 11-3, one was 12-2. Like, it was a great time in this state, and it felt good, and it was a part of the Big Ten. So you want that to be the case. But Mel Tucker, once again, just like Dan Campbell, he hasn't shown me that this is something that he's capable of yet. He hasn't shown me he doesn't have that cachet. He was 6-6 out in Colorado. He did 1 year. He comes here. Then this happens after year 3 or at year 3. So you're looking at it like I don't know if he can get it back on the rails, but you hope he can.
Michigan 5th in the initial college football playoff ranking. To me, this is a nothing burger.
It means nothing.
And I actually, a couple of nights ago, I put my college football playoff predictions out, and I had Michigan at 5, Alabama at 6, and TCU at 7th. And that's exactly what those three teams were. Look, Michigan is going to get no breaks because of the non-conference schedule. But if Michigan takes care of business and beats Ohio State, you have no problems. There are no problems here.
If they would have laid out MSU on Saturday, they beat 4.
Yes.
But they didn't.
Yes, and it doesn't even matter. Tennessee, Georgia, that's going to work itself out this week. The curious thing to see is, where does the loser fall? Where does
fall far.
Where does the loser
5,
fall? Does the loser
6?
fall to 4? Does the loser go to 4? Does the loser go to 5?
No, I'll tell you like this, and Fletch, well, I know what it is. It doesn't matter. I picked that exactly on the show yesterday. I picked it exactly as that as well. The what I say about that, you're right. It's nothing to worry about, because at the end of the day, if you take care of business, this will all be rectified, much like it was last year. We're always arguing in the beginning. It's intense. Oh, well, what happens if we relax? It plays itself out. The only thing that kind of got me, I was like, well, so you're putting Ohio State at number 2, and their only win really is Penn State, who we beat by much, much more. But then, you put Clemson ahead of us, but you know what? It's too much to even worry about. I don't care. The thing that's interesting, though, is the Big Ten is weak this year. The Big Ten hasn't been this, the Big Ten is steadily getting weaker, and this is only going to be a temporary thing that I'm going to say now. The Big Ten is steadily getting weaker. Last year, the Big Ten wasn't necessarily strong. This year, it's even worse. There are no good wins in the Big Ten this year, unless it's Penn State, it's Michigan, or Ohio State. I don't even count Illinois.
I think I'm glad you brought up Illinois. I think Illinois sucks.
Exactly.
They're the best of a bad bunch.
I really
Exactly.
do.
So, so the people out there that aren't Big Ten fans, they say, "Oh, Illinois, trust me, we agree with you." So you look at it from that standpoint. That makes it tougher if you have your regular season, because now you're like, well, if we don't play anybody in the non-conference schedule, and then the Big Ten is progressively worse, and this is why the Big Ten is going to get progressively worse. If you're a guy, if you're a football player coming into school, are you going to go up to the Big Ten and take maybe some NIL money on once I get there, we'll figure out an idea? Or are you going to go to Arkansas and get 1.5? Are you going to go to Kentucky and get $2 million? Are you going to go to Alabama and get $1 million? Like, I would go down there. That's what progressively, since the NIL has existed, you've seen the tank in the Big Ten, because none of these Big Ten schools are paying, and none of these kids wants to go here. Meanwhile, they got all the money down south. And that's the schools that are paying the bread. That's what these kids are now going to flood the gates to, and it's going to make the Big Ten progressively worse, which means if you're not going to play anybody, that means you got to be Ohio State every year if you're Michigan, and that means Ohio State has to be Michigan every year if you're Ohio State for the next 2 years. Because once USC and UCLA, and once they come,
then it
raises the level. But for the next 2 years, this one and next one, you got to go undefeated to get into the college football playoffs, because the schedule sucks, because the Big Ten is starting to go on the decline.
Hey, Fletch, throw up the playoff again. Put up the Big Four and the Little Two underneath. Michigan and Alabama is a Little Two. Listen, man, honestly, I want you guys to look at yourselves in the mirror and tell me Michigan could beat those 5
Michigan
teams.
could beat Clemson.
No, they can't.
Yeah, they can. How many times have you watched Clemson play football?
Go ahead. I'm just asking.
Hold up, Matt. We're doing a good job in our argument.
Yep.
I just want to ask you this. Out of all those schools, you picked Clemson first. Clemson barely beat Syracuse. Clemson struggled to
They pulled their quarterback.
They went to overtime against Wake Forest. Clemson struggled. They've struggled through an ACC that is just as bad as the Big Ten.
Clemson's
so
no
if you,
good.
Clemson,
Okay.
I
Clemson's
disagree
a
with
fugazi.
that.
Okay.
Now, with that being said,
I don't think they can score with Tennessee.
I don't think they could beat the other three right now.
How about Alabama?
I think they could beat Alabama.
No, they can't.
This version of Alabama,
No,
I think
they
they can
can't.
Not
beat.
with Bryce Young.
They can't, man. You're fooling yourself.
Maybe
I want
am.
them to win.
Maybe,
I want them to win.
Maybe I am.
It ain't happening.
I think you're fooling yourself, because I don't think Alabama's Alabama.
Okay.
I don't think Alabama.
Alabama may not be Alabama, but Alabama just took the #1 team in the country 3 weeks ago to damn near overtime, 49-52. Tennessee had to score 52 points to beat Alabama, who everybody, including me, is saying the same thing that you're saying. Alabama's not the same. You're right, but guess what? Alabama is the same with. They keep a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback or a Heisman Trophy winning player, and you look on the other side. Guess who's the #1 player in the country that people are still talking about?
1-2.
Will Anderson.
Go 1-2.
So to your point, no, Alabama's not the same Alabama, but they're still Alabama enough to score 49 points on Tennessee, who's #1 in the country.
I love you, man. I do. But it ain't happening.
Well, let me ask you this then. Could they beat the #2 team on that list? And I'll get your answer next, but first a message from Swiss.
Swiss Insurance Group and their employees are heavily involved in their community. It is very rewarding, but it comes with a great responsibility. If you sit on a local youth sports board, homeowners association, or a volunteer coach, directors and officers must be insured. Make sure the kids, parents, volunteers are protected. Let my boy Mark at Swiss Insurance let my boy Mark at Swiss Insurance Group recognize, respect, and take care of you.
Introducing the Planet Fitness Guide to getting that post-workout glow. Step 1. What's your why? More epic energy? Better sleep? Blow off steam? Step 2. Join Planet Fitness for just $10 a month and get moving in our clean and spacious clubs. Step 3. Bask in that post-workout glow. Join Planet Fitness today for just $10 a month.
Join today at any of the 50-plus Detroit area locations.
3 NBA championships. Detroit fans were there. 11 Stanley Cups. Detroit fans were there. 4 World Series wins. Detroit fans were there. And that one Lions playoff win in 1991. Yeah, Detroit fans were there. Woodward Sports, where the fans are.
Let's go, everybody. You want to win front row tickets to see Green Bay and Detroit at Ford Field this Sunday. We're giving away 3 pairs of front row tickets for your best Dan Campbell impersonation. Time is running out. You got to get your video sent out to us. Put it on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag Woodward Front Row. Make sure you're following Woodward Sports and, of course, telling your friends about us as well. We're going to select 3 winners coming up on Friday, and those 3 people will take a guest and head down to Ford Field to watch Green Bay and Detroit on Sunday in the front row. Let's go. We're picking it on Friday, man.
Good stuff there. All right, guys, woodwardsports.com. I want to ask you guys this question. Fletch, get it back up for me. College football playoff. Maz asked the question, could Michigan beat any teams on this list right now, 1 through 6? I think we both believe they could beat Clemson.
Yes, they definitely could beat Clemson.
And we could argue about Alabama. I'm on my own island on this.
Yes.
I asked the question, and I'll start, Braylon, with you. Could they beat the number 2 team on this list, the Ohio State Buckeyes? Because at the end of the day, that really is the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
If they could beat 2, I tell you they could beat 3, 4, and 5, 3, 4, and 6. I don't know if they could beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee's that damn good.
The answer is yes, because they've done it last year. They beat Ohio State last year. Ohio State had the same exact offense this year. Actually, you can argue that Ohio, but they're probably saying because you still had Chris Olave, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and then you had Garrett Wilson. Their team is pretty much set up the same way they were last year. And the reason why Ohio State lost, they lost in the trenches, whether it was the offensive line who couldn't handle our defensive line, or whether it was their defensive line that got mauled by our offensive line. Same thing this year. Insert Mozzie Smith, insert Mike Morris, insert the things that they're doing, transfer out of Alabama. The things that they're doing on that defensive line, they're flying around more sacks than last year, and it's including David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson. More sacks this year. You look at the play of the secondary. They're flying around. Finally, the speed of Michigan now matches the speed of Ohio State. That was one of the big things that Michigan struggled with. They couldn't run with Ohio State for years. They now have closed that gap. And they're not faster than Ohio State, but they're right there. So yes, they can, but the one area that we haven't seen it yet to fully make me believe is the quarterback situation. It's the JJ situation where he's completing 72% of his passes and he's leading the country. And I get all that. When you're throwing balls at 1 yard, you're going to have high completion rates. I haven't seen that part. Where last year when we got to the game with Cade McNamara, I saw Cade McNamara throw for 384 against Michigan State in a rivalry game.
Maz, before I come to you on this, I want to ask you a question. Instead of saying the quarterback, can we start saying, or I would like to start saying, the coaching staff? Yeah. Because I really think this is all coaching.
But if you notice what I'm saying we haven't seen it out of the quarterback.
I understand. And what I'm saying is, I don't think we've seen it out of the quarterback because the coaches haven't put that quarterback in that position.
I agree.
It is, look, and I say this every day, and I'm not going to stop saying it. They could hand the ball off 60 times against Rutgers and get the job done and go on to whoever they're playing next. I don't even know. It was in Illinois, Nebraska.
And Illinois.
And that'll be fine. They can't do that. They have to get this quarterback some confidence in throwing the deep ball. Maz, I'll come back to you with question number 1. Can they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes?
They can beat them. They'd have to pitch a perfect game to beat them because Ohio State, you haven't seen the best of them yet either. All right, they've really they're bored. I think they're absolutely bored. All right, they have so much talent. I watched them up close and personal against Michigan State. I know I'm not even paying attention to Michigan State. I was just looking at them. That's a big team. That's like a pro team playing in the Big Ten. You don't want to mess with that team. They can beat you in a lot of ways. And they got Marvin Harrison Jr. for crying out loud. They're winning without Jackson Smith and Jigba. Hasn't played with the hamstring. He'll probably just play against Michigan because it's a playoff game. Can you imagine? It's going to be his first freaking game back from his hamstring injury, and you got to cover him. And then, look, how about Marvin Harrison? And never mind running the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball yet.
Mugo, too, the other wide receiver. He's a phenom as well. So
they're wide receiver We know that.
But they were wide receiver.
I like Stroud. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Stroud's a damn good quarterback, but so was Haskins, rest in peace, and so was J.T. Barrett, and so was Cardell Holiday, and so was Justin Fields. The big thing about that offensive side is man, they recruit the wide receiver at skill positions. So all they do is they play easy. They almost play street ball, but with a level of NFL-style quarterbacking offensive play, man. They just get the balls into the hands of their players, and they let those guys make plays. And then they have 2 running backs. Now, that's one reason. That's one thing about Ohio State. I want to say Travion Henderson, not Travion, but Mayan Williams has been injured for Ohio State. So by the time they play Michigan, he'll be back as well. But once again, he was there last as well. Look, Michigan, they did not stop C.J. Stroud last year. C.J. Stroud had 384. He had 2 touchdowns. He had a great game. But the thing they did was they got off the field on 3rd down. Mm-hmm. They kept them in passing long, 3rd and long, 2nd and long. He had to get all of those yards, and they still came up 15 points short in terms of beating Michigan. The big thing this year, it's going to be, can Michigan's offensive coordinators, with an S because it is plural, can they get J.J. McCarthy going? Because they're not playing in Ann Arbor this year. You won't have Hello Mr. Brightside. You won't have the big house noise. You won't have that to fuel you.
DJ Ski's not coming?
DJ Ski's not coming anytime soon. He won't be on the sideline, so you won't get that extra boost of the crowd and home field advantage. You will be going into the belly of the beast, and I promise you this, that place is not friendly to Maize and Blue.
Really looking forward to it. And I will say, I'm enjoying this football season, but I'm not enjoying it as much as, because of the big games. There's really no big games. Even Penn State really wasn't. I mean, Penn State's no good.
They're both bored.
They're just
Michigan and Ohio State are bored.
You're not bored because you know why you're not enjoying the season, Ryan? This is why. Because typically when your rival wins, especially when you're Fox 2, especially when you come to woodwardsports.com to talk about it, to break it down, or when you go on the Twitter to talk to people to see the love you're going to get, or your whatever, all we're doing since the season started is defending Michigan's terrible schedule and defending. Nobody's giving Michigan the credit they deserve. They ain't no, but every week, even after a win, it's like, you beat Michigan State. Michigan State sucks. You beat. So you're not enjoying it because people aren't giving us credit for beating bums.
Well, not only that, but the expectation is so high now among the fan base that it really does come down to finishing 12-0 and beating Ohio State. But you can't beat Ohio State until you actually play Ohio State. So it's almost like you sleepwalk through the next month of the season with Rutgers, Nebraska, Illinois, and then 4 weeks from now you get to play Ohio State. So it's like the Ohio State game can't come fast enough. The only problem with the Ohio State game is that's the last game of the regular season. So you're not even really enjoying the ride so much.
You want to move it up?
No, I don't want to move it up.
I'm just talking in the future. No. I mean, I know it's always been the last game of the year, but that was before the Big Ten championship game and all. And if they do the new setup when USC and UCLA come to town, you could play Ohio State the last game and then play them again in the playoff, which is that would not be fun.
Well, I think it would be fun, but I'm just saying there's nothing leading up to this season that let's be honest, I never fully anticipated or expected or considered Michigan to lose to Michigan State.
Yeah,
like that. It was just a matter of how much you're going to win by.
That's fair.
Penn State, same thing.
That is fair. What I would remind you, and what I remind, I'm going that way, and I will remind the rest of the fan base is this: as you say, this year is boring. Being 8-0, as you're saying, the expectations have gotten higher,
too high.
What I would do is tell you to pause, relax for a second, and think about Rich Rod to Jim Harbaugh's first year. Think about all those ugly losses. Think about those ugly records. Think about all those ass whoopings we took to Ohio State. Think about all the butt whoopings you took to Mark D'Antonio and Michigan State. Think about how you were begging to be 9 in anything. How you were praying to be double digits. How you were praying that one day you could miraculously win the Big Ten. You won the Big Ten last year, and now you sit at 8-0. So as you sit here bored, sit here and be happy bored. Don't be complaining bored.
Trust me, it is a very happy board. Yeah. I am not complaining bored. What I'm saying is Ohio State, man, they're 8-0, but they're an exciting 8-0. I think our style, the way the way they play,
at least the one thing they pass the ball.
It's just so freaking boring. I mean, I don't want to. I'm not complaining. I'm really not. I'm happy that Michigan's 8-0. but it's not the same kind of 8-0 that Ohio State's got.
Ohio State has C.J. Stroud, who's arguably the number one quarterback that will be taken off the board next year. It seems like by the Detroit Lions. They have C.J. Stroud. He finished third in the Heisman last year. Right now, he's second in the Heisman. He's passing the ball like crazy. It doesn't matter that Garrett Wilson left last year. It doesn't matter Chris Olave. They insert Jackson Smith and Jib, but he gets hurt. Insert Marvin Harrison Jr. They pass the ball at an efficient clip, but at an efficient clip down the field.
Just figure if let's say they lose to Ohio State and they're 11-1, and they go to a bowl game, a New Year's 6 bowl game. Rose Bowl. You excited for the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, I would be.
Okay.
I would be excited for the Rose Bowl. I wouldn't be excited for the Cotton Bowl.
Right.
But I would be excited for the Rose Bowl.
Matt, you're an individual that loves the game. You love the tradition. You love all that. Like,
I'll watch it.
I will go to it. If there's, I'm going. So just know that I'm going to whatever bowl game they go to. Michigan gets to 11-1. They lose to the rival Ohio State in Ohio State. It's an ugly game. You know what? You want to win that game. You got to win that game. That's the one, Jim Harbaugh. That's the last hump that Jim Harbaugh has to get over, in my opinion, is winning
at Ohio State.
In Columbus.
Yeah.
That's the last. I mean, you can say national championship or winning a playoff game, but that's the last hump, and everything else is a bonus. But if it doesn't happen, it was a great season. It's 2 seasons in a row where you go 12-1, essentially, or you lose one game, and then you go to the Rose Bowl. You win the Rose Bowl, because we don't win bowl games either here in Ann Arbor. You win the Rose Bowl. That's the next step for next year. So if that happens, it will suck, but once again, it will be a happy suck.
And just to put a final bow on this, I don't want it to seem like I'm complaining or unhappy with 8-0. I do feel like we are, I say we,
University of
Michigan. I feel like the Michigan Wolverines are leaving a lot out there on the field.
Yeah.
They've got so much talent on that offensive side of the football, and they are not using it properly.
Once again, we talk about Dan Campbell, and we talk about not getting all the coaching choices right. Dan Campbell's now correcting some of his mistakes. He got rid of Aubrey Pleasant because Aubrey Pleasant wasn't the guy for the secondary. The next domino to fall is you-know-who. Last year, Anthony Lynn was. Look at Jim Harbaugh. He had to replace Josh Gaddis. They hired from within. Brought in 2 guys from within. You move, I'm going to hire one guy, and then you bring another guy from within, and you share time. Those guys may not be the piece you need, but you may have everything else right.
All right, we're going to take a break, come right back. More on this and major news in the NBA. We'll get to it, but first a message from SMA.
The Sports Marketing Agency helps spread awareness about substance abuse disorder as well as mental health. Watch yourself, Brian. We are here to destigmatize mental health. That is why their podcast is called This is the S Word. The S Word stands for stigma. It is okay to not be okay, but you know what? You want to have answers. You want to have content, and you want to be able to go to watch the conversations that you can understand what is going on with you or somebody that you know. Go to thesportsma.com. Sean Jordan does an amazing job providing you with the content that you need.
Life is full of hard choices. We're here to make one of life's biggest decisions as simple as possible. My name is Christina Gennari, and for over 20 years, I've helped hundreds of families buy and sell homes. We cover all of Metro Detroit and more, from large luxury homes to starter homes. We will work hard to make sure that you get the home of your dreams. So if you're in the market today or even thinking about buying or selling in the future, make the obvious choice. Christina Gennari, the obvious choice in real estate. Visit us at soldchristina.com today.
Fellas, let's be honest. We like things to be easy. We like simple stuff, like sports 7 days a week. We like things uncomplicated, like Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. Open 10 to 8, 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. Sign in, sit down, watch your favorite team play. And before you know it, your hair will be game ready. Open 10 to 8, 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men. It's wicked awesome.
Get a shot up. This is for the win. All of Detroit's sports teams live on Woodward. All of Detroit's sports coverage lives on Woodward Sports. Driving the best in Detroit sports coverage.
Only at Big Frog can you get yourself a free Woodward Sports t-shirt all month long at Big Frog in Novi. Stop in today, tell them we sent you, and they will print you out one right on the spot. So stop in today at Big Frog Novi, and they will hook you up and print you out a free Woodward Sports t-shirt, or you can visit them online at bigfrog.com/Novi.
Ribbit.
I was just looking at Twitter for a second, the college football playoff, and I missed it last night because I watched baseball. But A.J. McCarron supposedly on the show said, Yeah, Michigan's not very good. I'm not impressed with them.
So two things. One, here's thing one. A.J. McCarron is not that good, and I'm not impressed with him. But now,
Brett Musburger likes his girlfriend, though.
Everybody likes his girlfriend. I guess what? That ain't his girlfriend no more, I guarantee you that. But if I'm A.J. McCarron and I'm a guy that was nominated for the Heisman, I'm a guy that won a national championship at Alabama, everything at Alabama is about Alabama or the SEC. If I'm looking from afar at Michigan, I can believe that Michigan's not that good either.
Mm-hmm.
You start looking at the list of teams that Michigan's played, he's not doing homework to really know what Michigan is. I would say they're probably not that good either. So you know what? I don't have a problem with it either.
So many of these people just look at the scores, right?
But everybody hates Michigan. I always tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Everybody hates Michigan, number one, and number two, everybody looks at the scores. Look at it. You want to see some scores? Ohio State. Okay, aside from the 21-10 Notre Dame game, the first game of the season, 45, 77, 52, 49, 49, 54, and 44.
But the great thing about it is Ohio State's averaging 48 points a game. Michigan's averaging 42. So it may look like it's a little better on that end, but there's 6 points apart or differential between the two. Michigan's at 42.
I don't know how.
The first
three, they scored 51, 56, 59. But since then, Bray.
Hey, we ain't talking about since then. I'm talking about the average. Now,
yeah, right.
Go ahead.
But in the
Let me guess, the next one's averaging 28.
Well,
probably
34, 27, 31, 41, and 29.
Yeah, sounds about right. Maybe 30 points.
And that's where I keep having the pushback on Weiss and Moore and what they're doing with J.J. McCarthy, because they have the talent. They have played the bum teams to which they could be averaging 50 points a game on this Big Ten schedule. 100% they could, but because they want to run the ball all the time and not open up the pass at all, that's what happens. You start to go down and down. You don't because you're not scoring that fast. You're taking 9, 10, 12, 14, 15 plays to score touchdowns versus 7 plays, versus 6 plays, versus 4 plays sometime in Ohio State's point and Tennessee. So you want to score with the big boys and you want to blow people out. If you're going to play a butt schedule, and that's the other side of not playing a non-conference schedule. If you want to play a butt schedule, if you want to play an easy way that you get to Ohio State, well, guess what, Jim Harbaugh? You're going to have to put up 60 a game on those teams. So that way when people look at it, they can look at your schedule and say, well, they haven't played anybody, but they're averaging 60.
Right, but they did the 51, 56, 59 first 3 games of the season. Since then, they've played 5 games. They average only 32 points a game.
Against teams that aren't very good.
Against teams that aren't very good. Meanwhile, against those same teams, Ohio State has scored 41, 54, 49, 49, 52.
And you know the difference between those teams? You can not only even is the quarterback.
Yeah.
They unleashed the beast.
They unleashed the beast. That's what I'm saying here. Hey, before we get out of here, I want to mention Ime Udoka is finalizing a deal to be the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Bray, I want your thoughts on this because I wouldn't touch this job with a 10-foot pole.
I think I would touch it if I was Ime Udoka. Maybe he doesn't need to touch that, but touch it because of this. One, he got fired for a situation that was once again, it was a consensual situation, a very old rule in the Boston Celtic handbook, 1951 or so. So you want to get back to coaching as fast as possible. You don't want people to forget about you. You don't want people to go on and then next year it's another thing. You get an opportunity, you take the opportunity. Here's the thing too. Everyone says, from every pundit on every network, on every station, to every fan, to every player, that this situation is an unwinnable situation. You have Kevin Durant that doesn't want to make any decisions, just wants to play basketball. That's it. You have Kyrie Irving, who we'll get into in a brief second, and then you have all this. You have Ben Simmons. I forgot about that. You have Ben Simmons. You have injuries. You have their front office that has given all the reins, it looks like, to the players. That's the situation that you want to win. Coming out of something like the situation that got you suspended this year, what you did last year with that Celtics team that Brad Stevens had for 7 years and couldn't get to that spot you did, you almost won the championship in year 1. I think you want to get to a team, and you got Kevin D and Kyrie Irving. I'm telling you, he'll be able to at least have a conversation and get them to come around. So I take it, because if you win in that situation, it's like Pat Riley winning in L.A. If you win in a situation like that where it's just a ton of, smoking guns, it's great. Going to Kyrie, because I didn't get a chance to commentate on it Monday, and yesterday I stayed away from it. I would just say this. When Kyrie lost, it was at the press conference. It was him not willing to expound on what he liked about the movie and the book. Kyrie is not anti-Semitic. Kyrie is not a monster. Kyrie is a good individual. You can go back and look at all the causes, all the things that Kyrie Irving supports. He is not anti-Semitic by anything. So where he dropped the ball is when having a conversation with Frieder, I believe was his name. He played victim, and then he switched it around, and he said that Frieder was dehumanizing by asking him questions. If Kyrie was going to say he liked that book or say he liked that movie, that adaptation, and then when asked about it, that was Kyrie Irving's chance to explain and say, hey, look, I don't support the anti-Semitic tropes in this book. I don't support anti-Semitic tropes, period. This is what about the book I was curious about. This is what I like. This is something why I said, here, go out, put it on my platform. You guys check it out. That's what he should have said, and it would have been well received. There are many people that support things that have some level of something in them, but they're not necessarily talking about those things, and they explain it as such. The eloquation of what and why is what he missed out on in that press conference. That's where he missed out on, and that's why he was able to go on and have a longer conversation. He dropped the ball there. But Kyrie is by far not anti-Semitic.
That'll have to be the last word on that. Bray, get us out of here today.
Hey, go Phillies.
All right. Hey, I told you I love Bryce Harper. I still want to see my man Dusty Baker at 73 be the oldest coach to win in North American sports history. But we'll see. Bryce Harper and those boys' bats are red. Hot, great show. Great work, man, by Ari Meirov as well as Dan Lust. Getting us together with Dan Snyder in the NFL and trades. Tomorrow, Mike Tannenbaum, my former GM with the Jets, will break it down. And we're killing it, man. JB with the music. Fletch, oh, man, every week I tell you, getting better and better and better. Maz, thanks for Dan Lust and Ari Meirov today. My man, Ryan Ermanni, I will see you tomorrow. We're out of here.
Make sure you download the Woodward Sports app in the App Store and the Google Play Store today. Take Woodward Sports with you wherever you go and listen live on your phone or mobile device.